This is Mr. Vargas, and this is part 4 of my Meteor Mayhem tutorial. In part 4 of this tutorial, we're going to add a power-up to our game, and you're going to be able to collect the power-up, and when you collect it, it's going to increase your speed. We're also going to add a title, but unlike in past projects when we did a title screen, this title is not going to be a separate screen. Instead, it's going to appear right over the window, and the ship will be stationary for a few seconds while the user or the player has enough time to read the title. When the title disappears, the ship will start moving and music will start playing. So let me show you what this is going to look like when we're done. So in part 3, let me lower the volume a little bit because it's going to be kind of loud. In part 3, we had added oxygen tanks and meteors, so those are still there. But notice we have a few seconds to read the title, and then the ship starts moving. All right, and then watch when I collect the power-up. Plays a power-up sound, and I start going faster. So let me get out of here. That's what we're gonna do. Let me open up a version of the project that is where you should be at the end of part 3 with the tanks and the meteors, but no power-up yet. And the first thing we're gonna do is add that power-up. So I'm just gonna add it where it's easily visible. It makes this easy for testing, but you might want to hide it. You know, I guess that would make more sense. You're looking for a power-up somewhere in this level. But I'm just gonna add it right here. We're gonna call it power-up. And then let's edit the sprite. First, let's delete this. Now, in the past, I've told you to delete using the eraser tool. And I don't know why I never thought to try this tool right here, but this tool is actually a lot easier. You just press it and it deletes the whole image. So I suggest you do that to delete the block. And you can draw whatever you want for the power up. You could do a gas tank, you could do just a big P, whatever you want. You know, you could do a good job of this. I'm doing this rather quickly, so it's definitely does not look symmetrical, but I'm just gonna do kind of like a circle with the letter P in the inside. Oh, that looks bad. Let me delete this little bit over here. And you know what? I won't delete this bottom part. I'll just make this a little bit wider. All right. Now let me just fill in the other parts. Let's put some yellow here, some yellow here, some yellow there. And we're done with our power up. Now let's code this. So the power up has one trigger. It's going to be a collision. So when the ship collides with the power up, we're going to do 3 things. We're going to play a sound. So sound is under components. And you can pick something that you think sounds good. Doesn't really matter what you pick. I'm gonna go, they have a category for pickup, so I'm just gonna go with that right there. That sounds pretty good to me. So when the ship collides with the power up, we're gonna play that sound effect. We're also going to destroy the power up. So under components, there's a destroyer. And I'm leaving some space in the middle because we have another piece of important code to add, right? So the code that actually is gonna help increase the speed of the ship. Now you got to remember, we're inside of the power up right now. We're coding the power up behavior, but we want to communicate with the ship. In this case, whenever you want to do something like that, a global variable works well. So under logic and math, there's a global, and we can set the global to something. So we want to communicate something with the ship. Now, if you remember from part 3 or the earlier parts, our ship's default speed is 5. So we want to double the speed. So I'm going to add a number block, and I'm going to set it to 10. Set the current value to 10. And we are going to, when the ship collides with the power up, we're going to, so I connect it to the in block. That effectively sends this 10 out. And we're going to set it to the set of the global. And you have to make sure to go in here and actually set what global variable you're changing. We don't have any yet. So the only choice we have is add new name. So let's do that. And we're going to just name it speed. And now we're all set. When the player let's test this real quick. When the player hits the power up, I'm gonna hit it in a second. We played the sound and it destroyed itself. Now you might notice the speed hasn't changed yet. Right? We haven't done that part actually. Right? We've changed a variable, but we actually need to change the speed, and in order to do that, we need to go inside of the ship. So let's go inside ship, edit behaviors, and we have to change this line of code right here. So we have a lot of blocks here. Try to stay organized. If your blocks look like a big mess, right now is the time you might want to just space everything out before you keep adding stuff. I have a nice little spot over here that'll let me add the code I need to. So right now what we're doing is we're always sending the number 5 to the forward velocity. And that's not what we want to do. We don't want it to always be 5. We want it to change sometimes, right? We want to always set it to the global variable. So let's go to logic and math, global. And let's set this to speed. So let's break these little connections right here. And what we want to do is always send the variable speed to the forward velocity. Okay. Now I notice I didn't delete the 5 yet, because we do want to use the 5, right? We want the ship to start out at 5, but we after they collect the variable, we want it to increase. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a start trigger. Or a once trigger. It's essentially the same thing. Once, right? It basically once runs right when the program starts, and right at the beginning we're gonna set 5. We're gonna send 5 to this global variable. So what this is doing is right when the program starts running, speed gets sent to 5, and it remains 5 until that collision occurs inside of the power up, and then it gets changed to 10. So let's see, is there anything else we're missing there? No, I think that looks good. Let's test it out real quick, make sure it works. All right, so let's see if my speed looks like it increases after I hit that P. All right, let's go. And it looked like it works. You notice I've gotten faster, right? So that works. So we're done with basically the first major part of this tutorial. The last part is I want to add a title. And I want the title, but instead of a title screen, we're going to have text appear here. And we're going to make the ship stop moving. And after a few seconds, the title will disappear and the ship will start moving again. So let's click in here. Let's go to edit. So we're doing all of this inside of ship again. And it's getting pretty crowded in here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag the screen up. And I'm going to just add this code. There's going to be like a little web of code, and we're going to add it underneath here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a timer. And the timer is going to do like a countdown, right? So we're going to do a timer. And the timer is going to be set to, so this is measured in tenths of a second. Let's give ourselves maybe 5 seconds. So since this is measured in tenths of a second, you want to set it to 50. So after 5 seconds, we're going to make a label disappear. Let's add our label now, actually. So let's go to GUI and add a label. And let's set the label to the name of the game. So we're going to call it Meteor Mayhem. Meteor Mayhem. And let's see, you can set the color. I'm going to make it, let me think. I'm going to make it black. You might not think that's a good color because, sorry, let me go back in here. Because our background is black. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add an outline. And I'm going to make the outline white. And I'm going to make the border a little bit brighter or wider. So just to review, I named it Meteor Mayhem. I made the outline, the inside black. I made the outline white. I increase the weight of the outline. You know what? I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Oh, that's too big. It needs to fit all inside the screen. That's fine right there. And you can press OK to like re rearrange it. Now it looks a little weird, but when you actually play the game, it kind of puts this like border. You see how it puts like a border, or it puts, when you look at it in preview mode, you can't really see what it's gonna look like. All right, so I'm gonna go back to edit, and let's go back inside our ship, and let's finish coding this. All right, so we're down here. So after 5 seconds, we want the label to disappear. So if you look at the inputs for label, there's one called alpha. Alpha is basically how visible something is. 100% is fully visible, 0% is invisible. So we're gonna make it 0. So logic and math, add a number block. Default value is 0, which is exactly what we want. After 5 seconds, we are going to send the number 0 to the alpha of the label. Okay, so that'll make the label disappear, but that doesn't solve our problem of stopping the ship from moving. So to do that, we're gonna use a block that we haven't used yet called where is it? It is called enabled, and oh, I think it's under properties. Yep, properties enabled. So we're gonna use this enabled block, and it has true and false. True means that the object is enabled, it can move. False means it can't move. So we want this to be false at the beginning of this program. So we're going to do trigger, and we're gonna do once. So one time at the beginning of this project, we're going to make the ship, like, I guess, disenabled, right? And so it won't move. But after 5 seconds, we want it to start moving. So we're gonna connect the out of the timer to the true of enabled, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. So let's test this out. You know, sometimes testing, let's see, let's do play. Yeah, sometimes I've encountered this weird thing when testing this game. You have to refresh the screen to really be able to test it. And then hit play, and now notice that it has everything in there. So if you notice that it doesn't seem to be working right, just refresh the screen and then test it. So look at that again. So it has Meteor Mayhem. The ship's not moving. It still points at, but it's not moving. And then it starts moving. And notice the power up. Let's collect the power up and make sure it's still working. Notice how that makes us go faster. All right, the last thing we're gonna add is easy. We're just gonna add some music. So we're gonna have the music start playing when the timer goes off. You don't have to do that, but I don't know, I figured why not. We already added a timer. Let's use it for something else. So let's add a component, sound. We're gonna do choose sound. This time we're gonna do music. Pick something that you like. We're doing space, so let's pick a space song. Sometimes when you go to preview the music, it doesn't like work just right. I think it's because the files are a little bit bigger. But you know, sometimes you might have to test it in the other window, like actually play it for it to work. And sometimes it works fine. I'm not sure the reason why, but so in that case, I wasn't able to preview it. But when we actually test our game, the music plays. And that's pretty much it. You know, one thing you might want to do is the music. You might want to set it to loop. Even though this is a pretty short game, so I doubt the person will play long enough for the music to finish. But you might want to set that to loop, and you might also want to reduce the volume. I think the music sounds kind of loud sometimes in this game engine. And that's pretty much it. So that is part 4 of the Meteor Mayhem tutorial. We're all set with this. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.